Hello, welcome to episode 11. Somehow, when it's just the two of us, we know exactly who's introducing, or
No,
we
but
just don't
no, no,
care
one minute,
about,
one minute, one minute, one minute.
care about figuring it
Shut up.
out.
Kuch bhi. I pointed at you. That's how you knew you were introducing.
I didn't see you point at me.
Oh, yeah, sure. Now you can say that.
That is Siddhant Pradhan, that thing in over there, the sexiest bald man alive. If you've been following our Twitter and Instagram accounts, this is Aditya Deva, thankfully with a full head of hair. Though Siddhant will say does something crazy with his hair, but
Listen, actually, I've cracked enough man bun jokes for I'm going to let you off the hook for the next 5 minutes. उसके बाद देखते हैं.
Just to give so basically, so on Saturday the two of us were talking to which is on this video chat room, really cool video chat software actually with our friend, and it involved one of those guessing games where you have to pick who has the best answer, and quite often SP's answer was chopping off Devrat's man bun.
Listen, first of all, that
we can't go into what other answers we are going into.
No. I'm not even going there. I'm saying, first of all, that is not just my answer. That is the world's answer. Second of all, no one cares. Go on.
Anyway, welcome to episode 11. Like I said, our usual banter has started. We will try to keep it to a minimum because we are on a strict schedule today. We are trying to test ourselves to see how little I can talk and whether I can stay shut or not. But yeah, we want to keep this at most a 30-minute episode. Let's see if we can stick to that.
Let's see if we manage. I'll be very happy. Chal. Aage बढ़ो. Let's kick it into gear.
So starting off with our usual roundup. The first West Indies-Sri Lanka test match ended in a draw. It looked actually like West Indies were headed for a fairly convincing victory after both the first innings were over, but Sri Lanka had a really good fight back in the second innings, and sadly Niroshan Dickwala couldn't get his first century. He now holds the record for most 50s without a test century.
Does he now?
Okay,
I didn't know that.
Yes,
that's news.
And is
second
behind only Shane Warne, by the way, in most runs without a test century.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay. Second of all, the third inning was Sri Lanka's one good inning per test match. This is going to be a recurring theme when we do talk about the roundup. The West Indies Sri Lanka series on a pod.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that match ended in a draw. Nkrumah Bonner, carrying on from his great series in Bangladesh, kind of saved West Indies bacon there on the last day with a really good century, and big moment for him because he's been toiling away in first class cricket for quite a while. So, and I think this was like a dream come true moment for him. So that was pretty big. The second test is ongoing right now. West Indies did a decent job to bowl to bat till 354 after being put in, and now they have Sri Lanka at 136 for 3. This may be for the second match their one good innings. We don't know yet. We can't say. They've started off trying to make it a good innings. We can't make any guarantees until it ends.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Updates from New Zealand. First of all, Bangladesh managed to lose both the first two T20s and the ODI series because, well, they're Bangladesh. And apparently Narendra Modi went on satyagraha for their freedom or some bullshit like that.
Oh yeah, हम लोग का one political
statement मारा. चल आगे बढ़ो. Anyway,
basically Bangladesh came up to Siddharth to mention this. Anyway.
So no, but it's true, yaar. Like, now we all know that there was no satyagraha during the 71 war. There was basically tanks and shit. But Modi ji being Modi ji.
This is how Bangladesh became a country, and unfortunately, them becoming a country means that they have to get spanked by New Zealand whenever they play them.
Exactly. So basically, the question that we're trying to ask is, why are they even a country?
I can't wait to be when this pod gets discovered by a few Bangladeshis, just to see the amount of hate they give us.
We should do a Bangladesh episode. Actually, that will be really fun.
We should do. We should get. You live in England. It should be pretty easy for you to find a Bangladeshi friend to come on as well.
So look, basically, me doing a pod on Bangladesh is me swearing for half an hour.
Which is why we need the Bangladeshi to come on to
So
balance it out.
Bangladesh has to say something in between all the galis.
Exactly.
Moving on.
But speaking of that series, though,
See,
the way
I was just
the
about to come to
second,
that game.
so go for it. Go for it. The second
So,
T20
but
ended
just the,
was very farcical, basically.
so basically they lost by 30 runs. But now here's what happened. So New Zealand didn't bat the full 20 overs because of a rain break. Now, as they come out after the rain break, nobody knows what they're chasing. One Duckworth Lewis turns scorecard says 143, and the other two say 170 and 171. Okay, so until the ninth ball of the inning, they had no idea how much they're supposed to make. Why? Because the match referee has not given their team the sheet, because basically they say it's technical difficulties. We all know the real reason: printer kharab ho gaya.
The best part is the big screen at the stadium told them their target was 148. Now see the difference.
Well, kuch bhi,
20 runs, 23 runs difference.
In their defense, they did end up getting 147, and they had to. The actual Duckworth Lewis chase was 170. So that is that.
But yeah, that sheet, that is very crucial because it tells you the over by over target that didn't show up until 1.5 hours in. Yeah.
Basically, they've forgotten to put ink in the printer. We'll assume.
So when people are talking about third umpires in the India-England series, this is what can happen elsewhere. We'll get to that one.
We'll get to all of it in a minute. That's that. There was also two very good games between Australia and New Zealand, the women, in their T20I series. Australia won the first one and New Zealand have won the second one. Some heroics today from, I've forgotten her name.
Frankie Mackay.
Frankie Mackay, thank you.
I hope I pronounced that right. But white people butcher our names all the time, so it's cool.
It's okay. All right. Quickly moving on, we'll move on to the IPL. Couple of big news updates from that. One, of course, regarding the Delhi Capitals. Guess who has become captain? I'm so happy today. It's such a good day.
Rishabh Pant has been named Delhi captain because Shreyas Iyer is supposed to miss a good chunk, if not the entire tournament, which is big. He was vice captain already, so it did seem like a logical step. But then you have Ricky Ponting as coach and Steve Smith in the squad, so you never know. I also saw some people on Twitter saying this is. I think they were trolling, to be fair, to their credit. This is disrespectful to Ajinkya Rahane. He should have been named captain.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I saw another one that said Rishabh Pant in 2 years has gone from being babysitter to captaining Steve Smith.
I did see that also. That was excellent.
Anyway, so that's the Delhi Capitals roundup. And just a quick update on the playing conditions for the IPL. So the committee came down very hard on slow over rates. So you have to bowl all your 20 overs in 90 minutes, which means regardless of whether the last over starts before or not, you have 1.5 hours to bowl all your 20 overs.
Yeah.
After that, which there will be fines and repercussions.
I think if it happens in 2 successive games or possibly just 2 games in a period, the captain just gets a 1-match ban.
Exactly. That is one. 2, there will be no soft signal. We will get to the soft signal debate in a few minutes, but there will be no soft signal for the umpires for catches in the IPL. That, and am I missing something?
I think these were the major ones, but we will go a bit more into the rule changes when we do our IPL preview.
Yeah.
Quick note on the IPL, big day for us yesterday as we had our fantasy draft for with the DWC crew. We did try making it our first live episode though, but it was some very random mixture of partly chaos and partly just boredom.
This is what happens when you get people in Guyana sitting on deck chairs and picking players. Anyway.
So we thought it was going to be a great live episode. Then I'm sitting through this Zoom call and it's just like, a lot of it is just people going, for 2 minutes and then saying, that guy.
That guy. And of course, time limits didn't work. All right.
Yeah. But that has happened. We will bring you up to speed on that when we do our IPL preview. But yes, Sid is moving us on. We need to move on. Moving on. We are now into the meat and drink of our podcast. We are going to discuss the India-England ODI series and where to begin, but the soft signal. The umpires, I think, honestly, Nitin Menon had a great series, and I think umpiring in general was actually not as bad as people have made it out to be. It was pretty good. They had those 1 or 2 moments in the Test series, but yeah, this soft signal thing has been put under the spotlight, and I think I personally think the BCCI has made a good call when it comes to the IPL. After that,
I mean, there was also the thing with the soft signals. There was also that cotton bolt from the New Zealand Bangladesh series with Kyle Jamieson, which for the life of me I could not fathom how they gave that not out.
And I was on the exact opposite. I thought it was a very clear not out. But see, this is why the soft signals are needed.
Yeah, because I mean, look. First of all, they never come up with conclusive evidence anyway, unless it's unless a fucking bat can see it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there's a technical thing that I feel like you just cannot come up with conclusive evidence, because I think I mean I don't understand the science a lot, but I think it's just the issue of you're looking at what is something has happened in real time in 3D, and you're looking at 2D images of it. So can you ever actually be absolutely certain, unless it's like very clear and obvious, as
For all
these
you
VAR merchants like to say.
For clear and obvious, good lord. I still look. DRS is brilliant. VAR is just dog shite. For all you nerds out there, however, the technical term is foreshortening of the image on a 2D screen. So that is what causes
so
the
this-
discrepancy, and it
Yeah.
leads to inconclusive evidence. That is why they decided to have a soft signal, which I don't understand. I mean, I think it's a really bad idea. And it goes back to even that catch in the T20I series where Surya Kumar Yadav was taken after his 50.
Yeah, I think it was David Milan catch, if I remember correctly. And it was like,
Yeah.
I honestly, for that one though, again, I soft signal is one thing. I just thought it was very clearly not out. Yeah, I
Not
felt
out,
like it was
yeah.
it should have been overturned anyway. But yeah, obviously the soft signal becomes an issue, because then it's always a question of, okay, we have a decision, we have to overturn it. For that, we need evidence, rather than just letting the third umpire make the decision on their own.
Exactly.
Which I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think you just summed it up pretty perfectly. I think the third umpire needs to make his own decision, as opposed to relying on the on-field umpire who's some 80 yards away telling you what is out or not out, even though the bug is
And
grasping.
there's no way the umpire can it's literally impossible for the umpire to know what has happened there. So the
Exactly.
umpire is doing guesswork.
Yeah.
Now you can say a lot of umpiring decisions are based on guesswork. LBW technically is entirely guesswork, but thoda to you use a little bit of knowledge, intuition. You're not blindly thinking, "Acha, it might be out, so let me give it out" types.
Okay, good. Moving on. He's talking too much now, so we have to move on. So we'll go 3 games. India won the first one. England won the second one. India won the third one. All three completely different sort of. I mean, it all played out completely differently. The first one, England were cruising. They were 130 without loss in 17 overs, chasing 330. They were cruising. They were absolutely cruising. I don't know how they managed to screw it up. They then lose their next 10 wickets for 110 runs or so, get bowled out for 240. Second game, the openers bossed the game, won easily. And I think they chased down 320 odd in about, what was it, 43?
45, 44 overs. Yeah,
43, 44 overs.
Yeah.
And the third game was an absolute firecracker.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The third game was an absolute firecracker. At 240 odd for 6, you thought they were dead and buried, but no. That motherchode mosquito buzzer, bzz, fucking Sam Curran has to come and hit 80 and nearly give us a heart attack. Thank God he did not win the game for them. But yeah, they almost chased down 330 again. And that's how it all played out. So we'll now discuss the teams. We'll start with India, the batting. There was moaning about how slowly the openers went in the first game and the second game. And then in the third game, they tried something completely different and lost wickets and ended up getting bowled out.
But it was, I think, the best opening partnership of that, in terms of speed. I think it was the best opening partnership of the series, right?
Correct.
And even that, they got to like 100 odd and in about 15 overs, which is not, it's not Besto and Roy level quick, but it's quick.
No, it's 6 and a bit and over, which is fine for the first.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is a good platform.
Yeah.
Besto and Roy constantly hit at like 7, 8, 9 over. They're redefining that entire phase. But no, I think there's this entire thing which started with the T20 series where Virat Kohli is like, we need to change our approach to batting. We need to start going hard from ball one, which obviously a big change from the standard Indian template. And they tried putting it in change. They haven't gotten the consistency, I guess, where you can constantly threaten 350 and then maybe even 370, 380, 400 is like your realistic almost par score rather than like a far off dreamland score, which is what England have made 400 into basically. It's like that's what you should be getting all the time now. But they're getting there. It's good. It's good to see that change in emphasis has happened. We have the players to do it with people like both the Pandya brothers. KL Rahul is a decent enough finisher.
I mean, there were a lot of positives from that. First of all, okay, the openers, we know what you're going to get. Kohli, you know what you're going to get. Somehow, the fucker still didn't score 100. मेरे को अभी समझ में नहीं आ रहा. I don't know what he's doing. How he's not scored that 71st, what is it, 71st international ton or something. It's been over 450 days now. It's verging on 500, and that would be.
I think my theory here is that this is again a long game. We have a series coming up in England again. He wants Moeen Ali and or Adil Rashid to be in that test squad. So he's making sure he gets out to them as much as possible before that, so that England pick them.
Okay. But yeah, KL Rahul scored 100 in the second game. Pant was great. I mean, he had a couple of 50s in the two games that he played. He scored 50s in both. And Krunal Pandya and Rahul were outstanding in the first game at the back end of the innings to get India up to 320. And yeah, I mean, Hardik was good in the last game as well. So, I mean, it's just, and it looks a scary batting lineup, I think now.
It does.
I think the only sort of 50-50 person in there is Dhawan.
Yeah, though in that last match, Dhawan actually did, he bucked up his scoring rate. And when he got out, I think he was like some nearly 70 or 55 or something like that. But he's usually the one. The thing with the thing with the two openers is Rohit usually starts maybe just as slow as Dhawan, but he also stays in and then makes up for it at the back end. He will go from 100 to 150 in about 10 balls. So then you're not worried about it. Dhawan normally doesn't score big, so then he ends up maybe leaving a few runs on the table.
Yeah. So, I mean, all in all, I think very good performance from the Indian batsmen. I think they got 320 or 330 in all three games. And
it's funny that India lost. The one game they lost was also the highest batting score of all three.
That's just,
anyway.
I guess that goes with England's approach to batting as well, as opposed to India's, because I think both sides have completely different templates. England go way harder than India do at the top, but then I think
that's also because they have players all the way down the order who can just keep that pace up.
I think now India have it too, and if you play somebody like Shardul Thakur at 8, you even get that.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
and that's why you can play people. In fact, I'm very interested now to see what happens to someone like Shreyas Iyer, who unfortunately got ruled out of the series with injury, and Pant came in for him. I think the current batting lineup, I don't see who Iyer comes in for, because you want Pant there.
I think the only difference, if they have to make one, is Rahul goes and bats at the top and Shreyas Iyer comes in at 4 and Dhawan misses out. That's the only change I can think of. I don't think they're going to change anything. Krunal Pandya was great. I was hoping Surya Kumar Yadav got a game, but
Me too.
But the way they ended up doing it was I mean, it worked, I guess. So can't really complain.
Yeah. So settled on a fairly good 11. That's the other good thing from the limited over series. Obviously Jasprit Bumrah didn't play because he thought getting married was more important than cricket, which frankly we think is a very
frankly over ODI cricket, and especially ODIs against India. Bhai, no problem. Don't need him to beat them.
But we know Bhuvneshwar Kumar had a great comeback series after all his injury troubles, and hopefully he stays fit, because he'll be a good asset in the England series as well, as in the return series in England. So I think the batting lineup, there is that one question. Probably for now, I guess it is going to be what it is. Maybe someone like Jadeja comes in, and then you can look at dropping Dhawan, or Shreyas Iyer comes in, and you look at dropping Dhawan and moving Rahul up. The bowling depth is also very good to see, because I know you don't rate Prasidh Krishna much, but he had a good series, especially that first game.
Boss, 1 minute. He first started off as Venkatesh Prasad, then he became Morne Morkel. Then the next 2 games, he went back to being Venkatesh Prasad.
See, but the other thing is, we know our first choice bowling attack will not have him, because Bumrah and Shami will be there.
Correct. Bumrah
and they just walk, they walk in. Yeah, and they walk in for people like Natarajan and Krishna. Also, by the way, fair play for Natarajan to hold his nerve in that last match.
Yeah. I mean, he is the death bowler. So,
and of course, the big difference maker here is when is Hardik Pandya back to full fitness? I think it made a big difference in the final game, because you had 6 bowlers, Whereas in the first two games, he wasn't bowling, and it made a difference because you didn't have a backup when someone was having a bad day, and someone like Kuldeep Yadav was constantly having a bad day in this
Yeah,
series.
Kuldeep's an interesting one because you really feel for him after that, man. Like, I mean, they found him out. England have properly found him out. Johnny Bairstow just decides that he's going to lapate him over mid wicket for six all the time. And
yeah, and the thing is, Kuldeep Yadav has time. He's 26 years old, so he can still go back into domestic cricket. Hopefully, the KKR setup also, and with someone like Eoin Morgan as captain, who usually backs his rich spinners a lot. Not that Kohli hasn't backed Kuldeep, but Morgan's been good for someone like Adil Rashid. Maybe that will help. But yeah, he needs some time away, I think, from the international game to get his form and confidence back.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we know he's a good enough bowler. I think he just needs to go back to international cricket. Domestic cricket, and we know he's going to go back. He'll pick up loads of wickets in Ranji Trophy cricket, rediscover his confidence, then come back to playing for the Indian team. I think he just needs a break from that. It'll be interesting because I think Chahal comes in straight as the replacement spinner, and that's more than good enough, I feel.
Yeah.
And with Jadeja, there you always have a second spinner. So I mean, it's a pretty sorted. I think India are a pretty sorted one-day team. I don't think there's too many changes you need to make. Yes, you need to try new players here and there. Venkatesh Krishna. Sorry, what am I saying?
Prasidh Morkel, whatever.
Prasidh Morkel. Not a bad thing. And I think the one person who's gained more than anybody in this is Shardul Thakur, who's made a real case to be a permanent fixture in the one-day team.
Shardul Thakur, by the way, I think probably made the career of Dinesh Karthik the Pandit. Because I don't know who's seen this video. Dinesh Karthik in general has been a great commentator and pundit on Sky Sports, much to SP's displeasure. Or pleasure, because he's not playing.
He's not playing, boss. Pleasure.
But anyway, there's this moment when he and Nasser Hussain are on comms together. Nasser's like, "Oh, who do you think should be bowling? Who do you want to get your wicket?" And Dinesh Karthik is just like, "Oh yeah, the guy who's bowling right now. I think Shardul's a great bowler. He's a strike bowler. He may go for runs, but he will always get you wickets." And very next ball, Shardul Thakur gets a wicket.
Yeah, and the best bit was it was a full toss that they literally lobbed back into his hands. It's like, bhai, tu kachra bhi dal, wicket milega. But no, I mean, other luck aside, he really did have a good series. Picked up lots of wickets, bowled really well in the middle parts, and he's a difficult bowler because he comes in. He can swing the ball up top. He can bang it in short. He bowls some cross seam stuff. He has he has one good slower ball, unlike some of the English players who are living on their reputation of being slower ball bowlers with the occasional seam up one.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but we're assuming you mean Tom Curran.
We will get into him, yes, in a bit.
But yeah, India's bowling depth in that sense, people. I mean, now you have, and it's also good that we get these players who can both bat and bowl. Fielding, they generally tend to be good fielders also. But Shardul Thakur is like that one dolly of a catch that he dropped is still stuck in my.
Pandya in that game dropped 2.
Oh God!
So I mean, and I don't know what happened at the end of that last ODI, but the fielding just went completely. Like it was just like. Bhai, hum nahi pakad payenge. Butterfingers has spread throughout.
And these are catches literally these are literally catches that you and I would take.
I don't know about you, but I would take them. On that very happy note, time to move on. England. Let's move on to England. I mean, the English approach to batting is just they will come, they will start hitting sixes, and then they will take it as it comes. But everyone always says that they miss. I know they won the World Cup in conditions where it wasn't 350 means 350. But they always need that sort of player who'll come in and take his time, just play at a regular tempo and can up the tempo if needs be. But they were missing.
Yeah, Joe Root was missed.
Yeah. Funnily enough, in the last game, David Malan came in and did that role perfectly. And we both think that he's a better fit for that than he is for the T20 side.
Yeah, though he's the number 1 batsman in the ICC ratings, I don't think he's actually that great a T20 batsman as his reputation has been making him out to be. But he would fit in that ODI side, except for the fact that that's normally Joe Root's role. So if Joe Root's in the 11, then where do you play David Malan?
But I mean, it's great backup to have. I think that is something that England need to look at. And it's I mean, Eoin Morgan came out and said that, look, we're not going to do it. Um, also, so I have to marrow one small PJ. When Virat Kohli went out for the toss in the first game, he ran into Coin Morgan, and in the next two games, toss Butler.
So it's funny because this is a re-record where we didn't like the first time we recorded this podcast.
Thanks
The
for
first
telling
time,
the world that.
no, but there's context here. I'll tell you because on the first go round, SP didn't like this joke at all, and he was like, "Ha, Wasim Jafar said it. I just mentioned it because Wasim Jafar said it, but it's a shit joke." And now he's very proudly on the second go round, very proudly and happily saying this joke.
Yeah, but I have to hit one PJ to banta hai yaar.
Sure.
Uh, on that tossing note, um,
Oh, by the way, Kohli needs to like abandon tosses. Can we please just make Rohit
तो
Sharma send him out?
आयुष said ना कि भाई विराट कोहली को बोल दे तेरे को बाद में कैप्टन बनना है तू तेरे को फील्ड में जाके तू जो भी कर टॉस के लिए मत जा
Seriously,
टॉस के लिए
he
मत
lost
जा
every toss in
every
that
toss.
ODI series.
I mean, it's ridiculous. There was a stat today that said I think we lost out of 22 games we lost we won only we lost something like 16 tosses or 16 tosses.
Yeah, that's across the all three Australia series, and as in all three formats, and then this England series.
Then this England series as well. So that's 8 tests, 6 ODIs, and 8 T20s. That's something crazy.
And that's a combination that you throw Rahane in there also for his 2-3 tests where he was captain, but mainly it's Kohli.
Mainly it's Kohli. Agreed. But even Rahane lost that toss in Melbourne, and actually he lost that toss in Brisbane also.
Yeah.
And in Sydney.
He won the.
Wait.
No. He won one toss where he scored the century. The the second two tosses he lost. If I remember correctly, third and fourth test he lost the toss because that's why we were batting last.
But we batted last in all three of those games.
Did we bat last in the
we did.
Second test also?
We did. We definitely did.
Okay, possibly.
He most definitely batted last in the second test. We didn't bowl Australia out to win. We chased down 90 odd or something.
Correct. Yes.
In fact, the only toss that we won in that test series was Kohli at the pink ball test, where we got bowled out for 36.
Moving very swiftly on back to back to England and their batting. Yeah, so you're right. David Milana's backup for Root is a good player to have. I think, given that we saw how the role that Root can play at the World Cup. He just instead of going super hard and running the risk of sparking a collapse, he's just always there keeping things moving. And that probably if they had someone like that in form, David Milan hit a good innings in the last one, but I think if they had someone like in Root's form, they might have won the series 3-0 because they were in control, I think, of at the very least the first test. The first chase of the ODI series. The very last one, I mean, we finally found our bowling and picked up early wickets, but
1 minute, we almost lost to the bloody mosquito in that last game.
After finally getting early wickets. After finally not getting slaughtered by Bairstow and Roy.
Bairstow and Roy, this is true. Yeah, so, okay. So, I mean, their approach is pretty standard. We got Bairstow and Roy in the last game and they didn't. I mean, then they kept losing wickets. But in the first two games, they were absolutely bossing the game. So those two openers, probably the best in the world. There's no need to explain anything about them. Johnny Bairstow shit in the other two formats. In ODI cricket, he's God. Literally. Then you have... Okay, Stokes came in at 3 as a replacement for Root. Which was
in the second game. And I think that was actually in all
three.
Yeah, but that made a difference. In the third game, he got out, not making very many runs. But in the second game, his innings was insane.
It was insane.
And he moved from 50 to 99 in the space of about 10 balls.
It was wild, absolutely wild. Sorry for that. But I guess the screen flickering also wild hota hai yaar. Ben Stokes was outstanding. Only Morgan didn't have a good series because he just found ways of... Well,
he got injured.
Yeah.
He injured himself.
He injured himself. Liam Livingstone came in and did pretty well, actually, I thought. He was not bad.
Yeah, he did.
Moeen Ali, you know what you get with him. And you know what you get with Butler. Although, having said that, Butler had a very, very lean series.
Yeah, Butler was fairly destructive in the T20 series. ODI series, not so much.
And then there is the Machar.
Sam Curran, SP's favorite
Then
English
there is the
cricketer.
Machar. I mean, he nearly pulled that off in the last game. It was insane.
Yeah, I think it was giving us flashbacks to 2018, where he pretty much turned that Test series around. I think quite a few matches where India were on top in one of the bowling innings, and then Sam Curran would come in and hit like a very quick fire 50-60, turn the game around, and then India would lose in the last innings. But very similar, almost getting England across the line in that chase.
Yeah, and it really only Natarajan in that last over to sort of survive it.
Yeah.
Because our fielding went to pot in the middle and then, almost pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, also it only got to that stage because we dropped some very easy catches. But Sam Curran's innings nonetheless was quite a good one, and would have been. It's kind of harsh on him to end up in the losing cause and also to not get a century on that. But he did win man of the match, so much to Virat Kohli's displeasure.
Yeah, and mine. Right. Moving on to England's bowling. Look, they gave up 330 in all three games, pretty much. But the thing is, you kind of expect that in ODI cricket. I mean, they had two problems. One, I think, if you take out Wood and Archer, then they don't really have anybody in the bowling that can cause a lot of problems. Archer obviously didn't play in the ODIs. Wood played and was okay. Sam Curran does a decent enough job. I think he's got something about him with the ball. You have Rashid and Moeen Ali who do a job, and Rashid and Moeen Ali, for some bizarre fucking reason, will always get Kohli out.
Yep. And then Kohli will stand like this. Like saying, how can I get out to these guys?
And then you're like, but
I'm telling you, it is performance art. He's performance art. He's doing this on purpose to keep them in the side so that when it matters, he will destroy them.
Okay. We'll see what.
We will face them in a World Cup final at some point or something like that, and then Kohli will absolutely hammer them, and then we'll be like, this is all the long game.
This is all the long game. I agree.
But it does bring it like, you see how the England batsmen have started treating India's spinners and have pretty much we saw that in the World Cup game in 2019 as well, where Kohli and Chahal had Kuldeep and Chahal had an awful time of it, and then in this series as well, Krunal Pandya got smashed. Kuldeep probably is being relegated to domestic cricket for a while after this series. On the other hand, Rashid and Ali end up keeping things fairly tight against players who are supposed to be the better players of spin.
Yeah, but I mean, it also speaks of India's approach where they didn't really go after them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the one time they did in the third game, they lost wickets against all three spinners. I think Liam Livingstone also probably took one wicket in that match. But they do the job that they need to, and it's they're not easy to hit.
No, I mean Rashid's probably one of the best ODI. I would say limited overs spinners in the world.
Yeah, completely. And it's funny actually now. Their spin bowling attack is probably more reliable than their fast bowling attack once you get past people like Archer and
Wood. And the thing is, I mean, the next rung is Chris Woakes, who's a big miss, to be fair, who's a decent bowler. Stokes obviously is there. But then you also have people like Tom Curran, who basically is in a team to bowl slow balls. And not very well. And he got absolutely pasted, man.
Yeah, I was not impressed. But I don't think I've ever really been that impressed with Tom Curran, the bowler. He's not as effective. He just also doesn't have that X factor that his brother does. I would say the same thing right now. I mean, actually, honestly, I reserve judgment because I haven't seen enough of Reece Topley, but he's only played about 10 or 15 games so far. And only did he play once or twice in this series?
He played two games. He played both the second two games.
Yeah. So hard to make any judgments there, but also that this is England's like second or maybe even third choice bowling attack when it comes to the fast bowlers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I think if you had a first choice bowling attack, Archer, Wood, Woakes, Stokes, that's your four.
Yeah. Then Sam Curran's there, maybe.
Sam Curran's there, yeah. So I mean, we know it's a sort of third rung, fourth rung kind of thing, but they don't have any genuine threats. I think after Archer and Wood go, I don't think Woakes is that much of a threat either, especially in flat conditions.
Yeah, I mean, flat conditions, he struggles a bit, but he's, been a fairly effective
Yeah,
limited overs
yeah.
bowler in the last 2-3 years.
Won them a World Cup
So
as
yeah,
well. So
exactly. So, and, decent death bowler as well. So we know at full strength that their bowling is going to be better. Their spin bowling remarkably for England, and how poorly
the
they do at getting good spinners for the test format. They found a good couple of spinners in very quick time in limited overs.
can you believe the irony of that situation? It was unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
England's spinners are actually better than India's spinners, and we have come to this grand realization on this episode. My moment of nirvana. No, I'm just messing with you.
Maybe we should start preparing like Ahmedabad and Pune and Chennai style pitches for one days also.
भाई कोई आएगा नहीं. Nobody will tour. Literally, nobody will tour. And also, if you do that again if you do it in Ahmedabad two more times, na, the Narendra Modi Stadium will be banned for a full year.
Yeah, that's also true. That we can't have that blot on our nation's.
Also, I just want to point out one thing. Moving on from this, Sinstradamus का prediction क्या था? I have called
You
both.
did predict.
I said 3-2, India will win the T20I series, and 2-1, India will win the ODI series. You tell me what happened.
This is true. This is true. You did get both of those. Meanwhile, Ian's 2-0 prediction for the West Indies Sri Lanka series is not happening. It's probably going to be 0-0. So I think
I mean, we both
you
predicted 2-0 also, so apna bhi bhaad mein gaya.
that's true. That's true. But you can gloat in front of him maybe the next time he's on the
This
pod.
is true. You can gloat in front of him and say you got it wrong. Right.
I did predict. I went overly belligerently bullish and thought ki India might win the ODI series 3-0. But and I actually predicted England to win the T20 series. So I will cop my share of criticism there. If
I
I
really wish right now I could throw an egg at him. Just egg on face would be so appropriate. Must. Absolute must. Anyway, right. Moving on. Do we have awards this week? We do, don't we?
Yeah, the West Indies bowling attack has given us plenty of fodder for this awards section.
They have, haven't they? I mean, they bowled what, 20 no balls or something in that second inning?
Yeah, they got very lucky that they didn't actually take a wicket off a no ball, though
Chamira did in the first innings.
Yeah. Yeah, they did have one big dropped catch also in that may have changed that match. But anyway, we will go and get into that later when he ends on. But yes, the West Indies bowling attack collectively gets the Nobles Cricket Award, I think, this time around.
Yes. And we also have a special award to give out today. It is to Dinesh Karthik for wearing very colorful shirts on TV and being an actually good pundit. He's winning an award on No Balls Cricket. Can you believe it?
Yes.
Just don't say the word finisher anymore and we're fine.
And as a finisher for this podcast, for this episode, I just had to show it. We may not even end the episode on this note. I just had to shoehorn it in somehow. But the other key award that we have to keep you abreast of is that completely outside the realms of cricket, somehow, somewhere, someone got someone got this notion that Prince William is the sexiest bald man alive. And
apparently, he won a poll. I'm like,
yeah, apparently, I don't know what happened. The Independent put out some tweet, or the Sun put out did some research. So in case anyone has been following us on Instagram, on Twitter, we have put forth our own candidates for the sexiest bald man alive. It was clearly, as much as I like to rag on, said like even he is sexier than Prince William for sure.
Oh yeah, come on, look at these looks, man.
I did not do him justice by picking it. I very, very deliberately picked a quite unflattering picture of Sid for that poll. But even then, I think he should win over Prince William.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. I'm beating that posh little Brit. Yeah. I don't want to really swear more. Anyway,
I'd love to see you bowl at him. Honestly, if this could be arranged, that would be crazy. Have you bowl at him, and then basically the two of you have some sort of one-on-one cricket session, and then the winner of this can officially declare themselves the sexiest ballman alive.
and you know what will happen after I bowl to him? I can watch leg stump and off stump and middle stump flying back and be like, can't touch this.
If Sid ends up in a Buckingham Palace jail or something like this, in Palace jail room if they have one, we know why now.
Can't touch this.
What is the main? I forget. Pentonville or something. The main UK jail. That's where you're going to end up.
I don't even want to find out because I'm never going there. On that note, it is time to end. Thank you for watching. Please remember to follow us on Podcast
Twitter and
Addict.
Instagram.
Wait, hang on.
And then
Twitter and Instagram. Then audio. We are on Podcast Addict, Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts,
Google.
Spotify, and Apple. And if you are watching us on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, and
say cheese.
Yes, no, hit the bell icon. We really need to. By the way, we are planning on making that a T-shirt. So watch this. Go follow us on social media. You'll find out more about it. On that note, it is officially properly time to end. Remember, this is the sexiest bald man on earth. And that is the ugliest man bun on earth. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.